and welcome to St Mary Le Strand in central London. So my name's Warren Mailley-Smith. I'm a concert pianist from London, and welcome to my channel. And this is going to be a regular weekly broadcast at this time, so please do feel free to tune in for the live broadcast at 5:30 p.m. every Wednesday. So each week there's going to be I'm going to have a little topic to talk about, and I'm also going to have a little kind of tip for playing the piano each week, and I'm going to play you a different piece on this beautiful piano sitting behind me. And at any point, please do feel free to ask questions or make comments below, and I'll be really pleased to respond and answer any questions that you've got. So, for want of a better place to start, I thought I'd say just a few brief words about myself this week and some of my background. So, as I said, I live in London. I studied the piano at the Royal College of Music quite a few years ago now, and studied with a wonderful professor called John Barstow. He was a very, very inspiring professor, and I learnt obviously a lot from those days. And then after I left the Royal College, I carried on my studies with two other very eminent teachers and pianists. One of them was Ronald Smith, who was a great Alcan specialist. And then I also studied with Peter Feuchtwanger, a German pianist and teacher who resided in London for much of his life. I always loved playing the piano, but I didn't actually want to be a concert pianist until I was in my probably early 20s, so I was a bit of a late starter. And so at that stage I really threw myself into practicing and learning repertoire. And I think probably anyone who plays the piano, especially professionally, would agree that that the more I suppose that you have to be obsessed by the instrument. You have to be passionate about it, because it's a very time-consuming thing. When you learn one piece of music, there's a very big investment of time. So, and of course, just with one piece, you have to plan that process of learning. It doesn't just happen overnight. There are lots of different stages in the learning process, from picking it up and sight reading it for the first time to actually performing it from memory. It's very important, obviously, that you choose music that you love to listen to as well as to play. I have been very lucky to perform a lot in recent years, and I have a group called the Piccadilly Sinfonietta. We have various different formats where the orchestra can be really quite large with a lot of players, or much more of a smaller chamber ensemble, and we perform together all around the country. The reason that I'm doing these broadcasts from St Mary Le Strand in particular is that I'm delighted to have been made the concert pianist in residence here. So this is giving me this wonderful opportunity to perform and practice on this beautiful piano behind me. And of course we have a lot of concerts coming up in this beautiful building. So without further ado, I want to go on to the next section of this little broadcast, where I'm going to talk about each week a little tip for your practice or for learning the piano. Hopefully something useful whatever stage in your learning that you might be. So a question that I'm often asked is, how much do you need to practice, and how regularly do you need to practice? And of course that's a little to some extent a bit like asking how long is a piece of string. There are so many things that can affect the answer to that. But I think that the most important thing is that you practice with regularity. I think that the length of practice that you do isn't such a priority, to be looking at a clock and making sure that you've done 90 minutes or 30 minutes or however long. It's more about the quality and the regularity of your practice. So let's say, for example, that you work, you have perhaps a day job in the city, but you're very keen to build up your piano skills. I think it's incredible how much progress you can make just by a little 10-minute slot on a daily basis. I think, to put it another way, that doing a 10-minute, a very small, condensed and concentrated practice session every day, or maybe up to 5 days a week, will see you make much faster progress and get much quicker results than, let's say, just doing one massive big practice session, say for an hour before your lesson. Just the way the brain works, we take time to lay down muscular habits and behaviours, and I think when we try to do a lot of work all in one go and then have a lot of space in between, we're making it much harder to really ingrain that muscular behaviour of our fingers and of course our whole bodies. So regularity and quality of practice. So let's say you have just 10 minutes. I think you can still break down that 10 minutes into doing something technical. So thinking about your posture, or maybe just doing some scales, thinking about your hand position. But just something very small but useful about your technique. And then doing some constructive practice, sort of a middle section to your practice, where you set out to achieve something. That might be improving your left hand in a particular passage, or even just doing a bit of sight reading, or learning a new section of a piece, working on some fingering, whatever it might be, something really constructive. And then the last part of your practice is just playing through and enjoying playing the instrument, making the sounds, these beautiful harmonies and melodies that we can play on the piano. That can happen over 3 hours if you've got 3 hours to spend, but it can also happen in a much more condensed period of time, and as I say, will help you to make rapid progress. So, final section of this little broadcast, I wanted to fire a question at you guys, and just wondered if anyone could tell me which composer was described by Stravinsky as a 6-foot scow. Not the most endearing of descriptions, but I'd love to hear your answers on that one. So I'm going to play now Chopin's Nocturne in C-sharp minor, the opus posthumous. It was used very famously in the film called The Pianist, at this very crucial moment in the film. Of course, it was a true story of a Polish pianist who was giving this live broadcast in Warsaw when all sorts of carnage and bombs and explosions started to happen. And he was so immersed in this magical music that he just carried on despite all the carnage going on around him. It was, of course, published after Chopin's death, and there were several versions, subtly different, that were published because no one got the definitive final word on which version Chopin had approved. So I hope you enjoy the Nocturne in C sharp minor. And next week I'm going to be performing a movement from a Beethoven sonata. So I hope you can join me again. Thanks for listening. Bye.